Hello and welcome to Tricks of the Asteroid channel. Today is the 15th of April 2018, and in today's feature we're going to be featuring a couple of people. If you haven't received the notification for this particular video, it should be titled something like "Who Ate the Apple?" And according to the Bible that we read, we know that Eve ate the apple in the middle of the garden. As we all know, there is a very popular company that a lot of people love, which is called Apple. So this video is about the executives of the Apple company, which one of the names is Steve Jobs, who's been identified rather as one of the greatest innovators of our time when it comes to making us have the touchscreen phone. So we're going to be taking a look at Steve Jobs, who was the former executive of Apple. We're also going to be taking a look at Tim Cook, who is the present president of Apple. And we're going to be throwing in some small fish here and there that we think we should be covering about there. One of the names is going to be Ronan Farrow. Ronan Farrow is popular. He's one of the, let's say, the press people in the media who uncovered the Harvey Weinstein saga and the fact that Harvey Weinstein has been harassing sexually molesting a lot of women in Hollywood for so many number of years. We're going to be taking a good look at Ronan Farrow as well. We also be going to taking a look at 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine is a very popular rapper, very popular amongst the young kids today. And we're going to be taking a good look at 6ix9ine. We're also going to be taking a good look at Candace Parker. Now, Candace Parker is a female basketball player. She's very, very popular. I think she's won a couple of medals or so playing women's basketball. We're also going to be taking a good look at Crystal Stewart. Now, a lot of people may not know who Crystal Stewart is. Now, Crystal Stewart happened to be a winner of a Miss USA pageant, I believe. And she's in the movie titled Acrimony, directed and produced by Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry, whom a lot of black people love, who seems to do no evil at all. So we're going to be taking a good look at Crystal Stewart also. So those are the features, the small fish features that we have on this particular video. So if it's your first time on the channel, I'd like to welcome you. And before you continue watching this particular video, if you heard all that, I would advise that you pause the video right here and go look for the primer video. The primer video is going to answer a lot of the basic foundation questions which you need to watch any of our videos. And let me show you how to get to the primer video. The primer video is going to be the oldest video on this channel. It actually has a playlist called Primer. It's going to contain 2 or 3 more videos in it which we advise that you should watch. So you should just go to the channel and look for the Primer video or look for the playlist called Primer. So when you click on this particular video or any video that we have on this channel, there is a link in the description section. I'm hovering my mouse route over it right now. When you click on this link, it's going to take you to a document. The document is going to be called Male versus Female Visual Differences. Now, we advise that you study this document, download it, and save it for your own good so you can do your own transvestigations on your own. So since we're neck deep in the transvestigation, because we're going to be doing that as well as much as pulling out so much other information, let's go through this document really, really quick. So you're looking at a female to my left, and as you can see, a female has an arch in the back. Now, why does a female have an arch in the back? The arch in the back is because the pelvis of a female is tilted forward. Why is the pelvis of a female tilted forward? The pelvis of a female is tilted forward so that a baby can stay inside the womb for the 9 months of conception that a baby goes through before being born into this world. Now, also, an arch is also extra support for the weight of carrying children so that the weight of pregnancy can be evenly distributed across the body without the woman having problems walking or hurting the baby. So that is the reason why a woman has an arch in her back. Males do not have any arch in their backs. Males have straight backs. The reason why is because the pelvis of a male is straight up and down. Now, there's something I want to throw out there so you guys can really see how ridiculous the lying and deception that's going on in our world. Now, if you Google the differences between the female and the male pelvis, One of the things that they're going to tell you in your anatomy schools or so is that the male pelvis is longer than the female pelvis. Now, I want to ask you guys a question. The male pelvis doesn't carry any, it doesn't have any space for any children, okay? The female pelvis does. So just based on that fact alone, which pelvis do you think would be the longest amongst the two? Based on the fact that one is designed to carry children and the other is not. I think common sense and logic would tell you that the female pelvis ought to be longer than the male. But in any case, let's get back to what we're saying. I'm just throwing that out there so you guys can understand how the deception works in our world. So the male pelvis is straight up and down. It has no arch because the males don't get pregnant. Males do not carry pregnancy. It's not required. It will never happen. So the back is straight up and down. So, the pelvis is straight up and down. So if a man's back, since men do not carry babies, they don't have any arch in their back. A man's back is straight. If a man's back wants to arch, it's going to arch outwards into the shape of a D or a P. A female back is going to be shaped like an S or a C depending on where you draw the arch in the back. If you draw the arch from high above the shoulder blades like this, a female's back is going to be shaped like an S. If you draw the arch from below the shoulder blades, it's going to be shaped like a C. So remember those letters. A female's back arches like a C or an S. A man's back does not arch. If it's going to arch at all, it arches outwards. A female back arches inwards. So a man's back arches outward into the shape of a D or a P. Just scroll through the document just to see, show you some other stuff so you can actually see that a female will always have this deep C arch in the back. Here's a female kneeling down. As you can see, there's that deep C arch in the back because the pelvis is tilted forward. A very pronounced arch. It could be the pronounced, how pronounced the arch can be is also dependent on the ethnicity. Ethnicity in this case meaning that some people have woolly hair and some people have straight hair. So that's just what I want to make you understand. So we scroll further down into the document just to show you that it doesn't really matter about the size of a female, how big she is or how tall or how small. A female will always have an arch in her back. So here is a big female to my left. As you can see, there's an arch in the back and this pelvis is still tilted forward. And here is a small female arch in the back still, and the pelvis is tilted forward. It doesn't matter if the female's got muscles, she's in the gym working out, nothing can change the skeletal structure once it's conceptualized at birth or set at birth. The sex of everybody is determined at a conception, and nothing can change the skeleton. Changing the skeleton is much more like playing with the foundation of a house. If you play with the foundation, the whole house comes down. So nothing can change the skeletal structure. There's no amount of surgery that can be done to the body because anything that you do to the body is only going to affect the muscles and the skin and the fat and the water content, but nothing can change the bones. So if a male tried to have female hips, the hips will still be above the crotch, which I'm going to show in a minute or two, because males have hips above the crotch and females have hips below the crotch. So a female, no matter what she does, no matter the surgery, nothing can change the skeletal structure. The hips of a female will always be below the crotch, and that of a man will always be above the crotch. So as you can see right here, there's two muscular females. They still have an arch in the back. So let's move further. So I'm going to play a short clip of video so you guys can see where the location of a female hip is at. A female's hips is always going to be below the crotch, and that's how a female gets measured into clothes, her pants, her dresses, or whatever she wears. If females had varying degrees or varying places for their hips, if all the clothes that are sewn around the world and shipped to many different countries were sewn according to that design, a lot of the clothes would not fit. But every female's clothes is sewn in such a way to make sure that the hips are below the crotch, because that's where it ought to be. So here is the clip right here. As you can see, the tape's going to go round, and the widest portion that it goes around where the location of the female hip, as you can see right there, is below the crotch. The Q angle of a female starts below the crotch. The Q angle is the angle between the hip and the knee. And for males, it starts above the crotch, and for females, as you can see right here, it starts below the crotch. Now this female is going to turn around so you can see from the back where the location of that hip is at and where the Q angle is. As you can see right there, the Q angle is slightly above the bum line but below the crotch. If you have problems looking at someone trying to identify their sexes, and you're having difficulty looking at it from the front, try to see if you can find a picture of the person from the back, because once you see someone from the back, you're automatically going to know this is a male or female because of how acute the Q angle is from behind. So as you can see right there, the Q angle of female is slightly just below her bum line but below the crotch. So let's move forward. So here's the part that I have to put out a warning on the video. This video is going to be a long video, so if you can't sit through a long video, I would advise that you pause the video right here and go do something else or just quit, because I don't want you complaining about it that it's going to be a long video. And secondly, as usual, the warning is that there is no slandering allowed in a channel. If you're going to ask a question, because we're here to just guide you along the way in how to make find out what's really going on in your world and come to the truth and reality of what it is. So we do not appreciate any rumors or slandering of people's name just because the whole YouTube community, which is designed by the Vatican, makes you do so in calling everybody a transgender. Not everybody is a transgender. In actual sense, there's less than 1% of the population that's transgender. The reason why it's made to look like there are so many transgenders in the world is because we are all conditioned by what we see on TV. So we believe everything that we hear and see on TV. So because you find a lot of transgenders in the media doesn't mean that everybody is transgendered. You actually have less than 1% of the population that's transgendered. That is a reality. But because the Vatican owns the media, it's making you believe that there are so many of them. When you get the book, you'll understand a whole lot of things. So that's the warning that we have to put out here, that if you're going to label someone a transgender, you have to provide facts in links of pictures specifically showing that the person has hips below the crotch, an arch in the back, a pelvis that's tilted forward, and a wide pubic arch. If you do not do so, then we're going to block you because you are slandering. We do not appreciate you asking questions without providing those links of pictures. You can attach a YouTube video that you did not make. You cannot attach a whole Google search result and say, here it is, the person is a transgender. That is still going to get you blocked and is still considered slander. You have to provide specific links of pictures. And you can provide frivolous facts, such as the person has long arms, has long torsos, has a slanting forehead, has an Adonis belt, has a strong jaw, has a big head, a small head, small ears, small hands, small legs and feet. That is still going to get you blocked. You have to provide specific links of pictures showing why you say this person is a transgender or not, based on the fact that the female skeletal structure is designed to give birth, and that is what differentiates the sexes. So you have to show in your links of pictures that the person has hips below the crotch, an arch in the back, a pelvis that's tilted forward, and a wide pubic arch to be considered such. And as usual, the Vatican is the one responsible for the transgenders running your world. All right? There's a whole reason that we can't get into. That's why you need to get the book. So speaking of the book, part of the reason, because I know a lot of people are always expecting, I'm not saying you shouldn't be expecting that we should have videos. We should be having frequent videos. And so if we go for a long time without a new video coming out, you kind of think maybe that there is something wrong or something going on. But we want you, the whole idea of the channel was to lead you so that you can do your own investigation on your own, because that's the whole point of the channel. As much as we like giving out the information, but the whole idea is that you should be doing this on your own. Investigate into your world to know what it's really about. Okay, so part of the reason that we've been out for a while is because, as you know, the Vatican is hard at work trying to shut us down. So we had to attend to some other projects which would help us so that in the future we can still be here giving you out information. And part of that, those projects would be happening to do with a website and the book as well, and movies. So like I've said before, we are dealing with writing scripts. So we're just putting things in place to make sure that this happens over in the future, as by the grace of Yehoshua, when he gives us the grace to do so. So speaking of the book is ready. And part of the problem that we had with the book was when we tried to when we wrote the book, maybe if you've been on the channel for a long time, when we wrote the book, we told you that we had reached about 800 pages or thereabout. Okay, so but you know, when you write a book, you write it in let's say in a Word document, as you're seeing right here, and then when you actually let me just pull this book out right so you guys can see the PDF format of it for a while. I'm not going to scroll through because I'm not going to give out any details until you get the book in your hands. I'm just trying to show you guys some stuff. So I couldn't find the PDF, so let's just deal with this for a minute or two. So as you're looking at, this is the index for the index of the book. And so when I was trying to say that when we made the book, we told you guys it would be like 800 pages max. So when you start writing a book, and with everybody, and when, like, you know, it's just not just me just writing the book, there are other people who are putting in their details here and there. So when we compiled everything together, we were doing it in you know, a Word document like this. So but book printing is actually different from typing out a book in a Word document, because you have to know the specific dimensions for the book. So when we went to the publisher and we were ready to get the book out of print and everything else, the publisher now told us, what dimensions do you really want this book to be in? So we said, okay, we thought of a certain dimension, so that you know, the images, because the book is in color, you know, the stuff is being highlighted so you can understand what we're saying, and we bring you back to certain things, and we put everything in color. The images are in color so that you can actually understand what you're reading, so you can always make a reference back to the highlighted section as well. So the publisher asked us, what dimensions do you want the book to be in? So we now said, okay, we want the book to be a certain dimension. So when we tried to conform the book to the dimensions of publishing, the book spilled over to 1,400 pages, over 1,400 pages. Mind you, we already condensed this book to the 800 pages, because if we were to write everything that we know, that we have with facts and information, like you're going to hear some of it today on this video, the book would have been over like 5,000 pages, and I'm sure nobody would be able to buy that because it was pretty expensive. I mean, printing and publishing is a really expensive thing. So we were now faced with a dilemma. We have 1,400 pages. From 800 pages, we almost have twice the number of pages that we wanted to give the book out for, with so much information. So we are now faced with the problem of, should we take out 700 pages, all right, of information, which is so valuable to what the book is about, or what do we do? So we were faced with that dilemma. So because of that particular dilemma now, we had to try as much as possible to reduce the book to a stage in which we wouldn't lose a lot of information. So we had to like summarize it. So a lot of things that we would spend you know, in detail explaining, we had to like do a summary, and it is still a wonderful book. Like we stand by what we say, that this book is the next best thing after the Bible. We don't say that to be braggadocious, or we're bragging about it or anything like that, or we don't say that to be proud. We're just saying an honest opinion. If you've never loved reading your Bible, goodness gracious, when you do read this book, you will love your Bible. You will absolutely love your Bible. I'm telling you. So, but we will be sending an abridged copy of the version of the book to the people who are interested in buying it. And I have to say at this point that the book is going to be pricey. It's not our own doing. It's because of how the cost of printing and publishing is right now. So we would say that the book would be around within the middle 200s, excluding shipping and handling. That is the estimate. We will give you an actual price in the email, because you have to understand that we always looking for the cheapest price. So for each publisher, they all have their own price. So that is the estimate that we have for now. We'll send you a final price, and the accurate price in email. So if you did send us an email and you were interested in the book, we will send you an email with the price and cost of shipping. If you do not get the email, you have to understand that we're dealing with sending the emails out based on your number in the list of the emails that we did receive from you. So let's say, for example, you were the first person to send us an email about the book, then you would be the first person we contact. So we would just go down according to your name or email in the queue that way until we get down to everybody else. So if you do not receive an email so quickly, I want you to bear with us and be patient, that we will send you an email. You best believe it. We will not leave anybody out. We will send you an email with the price and cost of the book. So just bear with us. And if you're still interested in the book, you can still send us an email. So when we go back to the publisher to get some more copies, then we can print it according to the number of emails that we still receive. We're still receiving emails, so if you're interested, please just send us an email and we'll let you know. So here is an index of the book. It's 934 pages. So this is part of the index that I'm scrolling through, and I'm just gonna scroll through and just show you, maybe just like the book has a lot of chapters. So if you get the book, please, the book is listed as having only 27 chapters. All right. But there are more things that we talk about in those chapters that we could not list, because if you try to list the whole number of chapters, whole number of chapters in the book, it would have been so many chapters. It would have been up to like 50 or 57 chapters. So there are so many things we talk about in the book that you have to read through to see and understand the meaning. So I'm just scrolling through like the index, so you can help you go to each particular page, and if you're looking for something, and so you can all find out. All right, so I'll just show you. Let me see if I can scroll a bit and just show you the 27th chapter. Let me see. That's based on the conclusion. This is just part of the book. Let me see. Scroll down. I want to get to the that's not the chapter right there. Okay, this is the conclusion. All right, the concluding or summary of the book, the last chapter of the book. So this is just a scroll through. The book is ready. So like I said before, we'll send you an email with the price and the cost of shipping. If you don't receive an email so quickly, please just bear with us. We'll send you an email in the order that we did receive your email when you were interested in the book. We will send you an email, and everybody will get a copy or any number of copies that you so wish. We'll give you instructions on how you're gonna order the book and how to make payments for it. We'll send you all that in the email. So just be patient with us and you'll get that. So let's continue on to some other things that we wanted to talk about today. So before I talk about what I want to say, because there's some information things that I just have to make you guys understand. We're going to be playing a couple of videos just showing you just some examples. Now for the story, I'm going to tell you a story after this particular point in the video. So for this story, I need you guys to go, you could pause the video and I want you to get 4 things and get ready for the story. So the first thing you're gonna get is, if you're in the United States, rather, this is specifically for those in the United States. If you're outside the United States watching this, then you would just have to bear with us, and we'll show you examples. So if you live in the United States, I want you to get a quarter of $1. All right. I also want you to get a dime of $1. I also want you to get a nickel of a dollar, and I also want you to get a penny. So what am I saying? I want you to get 25 cents, which is a quarter. I want you to get a dime, which is 10 cents. I want you to get a nickel, which is 5 cents. And I want you to get a penny, which is 1 cent. Now, when you get those coins, I want you to place them in such an order in which the quarter is first, the dime is second, the nickel is third, and the penny is last. And the way I want you to place these coins, I want you to place them in the order that the face of the coin, which bears the name of the president, which the coin is imprinted on, is facing you. Okay, facing you. That means you can see the face of the coin and see the face of the president, and make sure that the face of the president is pointing in the direction in which you can clearly see. That means it's not backwards, but you can actually see the face of the president. Now, for the dime, is it the dime? Let me make sure that I get that right. I want to give you specific instructions for the dime. Sorry if I said nickel. I wanted to give you, sorry if I said dime. Sorry, I repeat that again. Sorry if I said dime. I wanted to say nickel. All right. So I want to give you specific instructions on the nickel. Now, for the nickel, I want you guys to make sure that the nickel that you have is a version that's earlier than 2001, if you can find it. If you can't find it, then this whole story is not going to make any sense at all. So try to find a nickel that's earlier printed than 2001. The reason why I'm saying so is because I think from 2000 and I'm not quite sure which year it is, but from 2014 or 2015 up, the way the face of the president on that nickel has been changed. So instead of having a side view, because if you notice, all these coins are going to have a side view of the president. In the nickel, they changed it earlier to make it have a face view. That means a front face full view instead of a side view. So that's what I mean. So if you can find any version of the nickel that's earlier than 2001 in which is facing, or if you can find the nickel in which the face is a side view and not a full view, then you can use that. Otherwise, it's not going to work for this particular story. So I want you to get all that in place, because we're going to tell you a bit of a story as you're watching this video. So before that, as usual, you guys should know that the Vatican is hard at work trying to shut us down. So for any video that we have on this particular channel, please do download the video, save it, re-upload it, do whatever you want to do. Because as you can see here, they will shut this video or shut this account down one way or the other when the truth gets way too much and it's something that you cannot be denied, because the channel is making you to see clearly away from the refractive lenses that the Vatican has put upon all of us. All right. So after a while, it's going to be something that they cannot deny, that they just have to find a way to shut down. Because they can try to pretend that what we're saying is not true or what we're saying doesn't really exist. But there's so much they can pretend. After a while, it's going to be a nagging problem. So please save the videos. All right. Download the videos, save it, spread the information, do whatever you want to with the videos. Because the Vatican will always try to shut us down. As you can see here, they landed a strike on account, even though they removed the strike at this point. But we know they have other ploys, and ways to shutting the channel down. As you can see right here, we were talking about Selena Q, and they told us that Selena Q had nudity in that particular video. They didn't care to let us know what was the minute mark for that content of nudity in the Selena Q video, because it was just all about truth. So if you're interested in the Selena Q video, go look for the Bono video on this channel. We'll give you instructions on how to watch that. We did tell you that there's going to be a lot of shocks down the road on this particular channel. We started saying that before the Clint Eastwood video, and you guys are in for a ride. We're going to be trying to make as many videos as we can weekly so that you guys can get all the full details before the channel gets shut down. And also, since we have the book ready, once you send us an email, we have you on our email list, so we can email you future correspondences on what we are doing, especially concerning our website and movies in the end. But the book is ready. So if you're interested, like we said, you send us an email and we will mail you the price and cost of shipping and tell you how to get the book. So let's move on to what we have in store today. So a video that I'm gonna play a video by a guy called Rich Piana. Now, Rich Piana is a bodybuilder. He died, I think a year or so thereabout. And Rich Piana was considered one of the, let's say, the most truthful speaking bodybuilder in the world. The reason why I'm gonna play this video is because of this. A lot of people have been conditioned to believe that people with straight hair, or as they would call it, the white man, or let's say, for example, the white man always tells the truth. You hear that all the time. You can trust a white man. Even black people have so much been conditioned and downgraded and degraded, whatever name you might want to say, that they actually believe that only white people, and I would put it right, that only albinos tell the truth. So when they go about, their business in everyday life, they tend to judge things based on the texture of the hair than the truth. So the reason why I'm playing this video is to make you understand that in a system of white supremacy or albino supremacy, if you hear me say that again for the very first time, you hear me use the word albino, because when someone says they're white, what they're actually saying is that they're albino, but because they do not know that the history and the origin of where whiteness comes from, they don't understand the meaning. So if you're interested in knowing all about that, please look on the channel for a series or for a playlist called The Myth of Whiteness. Being white is a myth. There is no such thing, because white is not a color. White means an absence of all color. All right? White is not a color. So when you say you're white, you're considerably saying, what you're saying is that you're an albino. That's the best way I can put it. There's no such thing as Neanderthal genes and people adapting to coal making them white. No such thing does exist, because if it was the case, black people today living in very cold regions of the world should be turning white, and the texture of the hair should be straight instead of woolly, but it doesn't happen. So we're talking about white supremacy, that there is no truth in it. There's no truth in it because once the organized system, the way it's designed, is designed to tell you a lie. Now, Rich Piana, who's going to be talking here, is going to tell you some basic truths, all right, and make you understand that this so-called white supremacy only does exist on paper. It's the art of storytelling that makes us believe this. But even at the same time, when Rich Piana, who's been considered as the most straightforward, the most, I'm trying to find the words for it, the person who tells the most truth in bodybuilding, Rich Piana, can tell you a truth, and then also at the end of it, he throws in a lie and confuses you, because the idea is to sell you the lie and not the truth. So I'll let Rich Piana play, and then we'll come back and talk about some things which we have to, but maybe before I should let Rich Piana play, I have to make you understand a few things here, all right? A lot of people make athletes around the world to be their role models. It means his name could be LeBron James, his name could be whosoever you want to name him to be. They make him to be role models, and you see a lot of people get so crazy about sports and athletic and treat it like it's something that is supposed to be some sort of a god to them. It's very, very important. Like football, basketball, when you hear them talk about it, they put so much energy and emphasis on it, like it's a do or die affair. Here's one thing I want to let you guys know. I've been in sports for a while, and here is the truth that you have to know. Everybody in sports is a walking pharmacy at the professional level. So I'm choosing my words correctly now. So professional level means at the level in which they say you are a professional or you belong in some sort of world recognized league. Everybody does steroids, drugs. That's just the best way I could put it. Because if you, for example, watch football, you see these guys weigh over 300 pounds, run at crazy speeds, take hits that no normal human being can. They're injured, they recover quickly, and they come back at it again. All that is possible because of steroids. Because steroids helps you heal faster, makes you stronger, and makes you a better person. Now, I'm going to take a particular example to show you that the whole industry of professional athletes is a drug business. That's the best way I could put it. Every athlete to perform needs to take steroids. Steroids only become a problem when the Vatican, who owns all sports, is targeting a specific athlete, because that athlete is no longer condoning, or let's say conforming, is no longer conforming to their dictates. Then it becomes an issue. Now, the way steroids is done is this. If let's say you want to try to get into be a professional athlete, and you've been working yourself through the ranks, through the amateur ranks, and you arrive at the time they call you a professional. And let's say, for example, I'm going to take a pick now here and say boxing. You're a boxer. You've gone through the amateur ranks through your school, and then you arrive at the professional ranks. And let's say during the one of you, let's say, first professional fights, because you probably heard that people take drugs all of a sudden in sports. It's never really occurred to you, and you've been training very, very well, and your coaches give you a diet and everything else. When you get to the professional level, and let's say you in your first fight you got hurt pretty bad, okay? Because your trainers and those who hire you are gonna gauge you to see if you're going to conform or not. So the whole professional, getting into that professional rank is only about just gauging you to see what type of person, if you're gonna conform to the system or not. And let's say you take a hit. Let's say you're very, very good at what you do, and you took a hit and you got injured, and your injury won't heal as quickly. And remember that being professional means that you're signed to, like, let's say if in this example, a boxing consortium who promotes you and everything else, and there's a ton of money that you're supposed to be making for them. So you take a hit, and the injury doesn't want to heal. And they take you to the doctor, and so the doctor says, I'm gonna give you something for this because I don't think you're healing as quickly as possible. Just remember that you're on a contract. The more time you spend on the sidelines, the more that money dwindles, and sooner or later, if you're solely depending on that, you're gonna be out of a job very soon. Because being a professional athlete, you're giving 110%, not just even 100. So the doctor now tells you, okay, we need to give you something. And you ask the doctor, what is that? And he tells you, it's just something just to make you heal faster. And you're interested in finding out what that is. And you go and say, I've read about that looks like some sort of steroid. The doctor just says, but it's necessary for your health. And you say, no, I don't want to take any steroids or put anything into my body that's not going to help me or is going to put me in trouble. So you get off, let's say, the table in which the doctor is making all these assertions on you. and you meet with your coaches and you tell them like the coaches tell you, okay, what happened? You met the doctor. What did they say? And you say, oh, I met the doctor and he was just trying to say that he was having identified a drug that I should take, but I think the drug is a steroid based kind of drug. I don't want to take anything that is going to ruin my career. And the coaches look at you. Then they call you to the side and say, look, everybody in this business takes steroids. And you're like, what? Really? They say yes. They tell you, even the greats, they mention a name, they throw out a name and say that he took steroids, whatever name that they want to call, who's very, very known in that sphere or sport. And you're like, really? You say yes. And you kind of ask the question, so, but why doesn't nobody talking? They tell you this is the way the business is run. Okay? It's a known secret in the industry. So when you hear that and you say, really? You go ahead and take the steroids. And later on, most steroids are going to be introduced to you. And you will keep taking them because they're going to let you know that the whole industry and everybody, even your favorite athletes, are taking it. The whole industry of professional athleticism is based on steroids. It's not based on any like human performance. Because I'm going to give you a typical example. For example, right here, let me just show you guys something. So what you guys are looking at is a record of 100 meters of how fast athletes have been running for 100 meters since the year 1920. Now, what I want you guys to take notice of is that from 1891, all right, the 100 meters was only run under 10 seconds. That means nobody moved under 10 seconds. It's always within the 10-second range for 100 meters to be run. And this record was held since 1891, all right? From 1891 until, let's scroll down a bit more further in here, until 1968. So that's how many years? From 1891. So from 1891, you have just, let's say, 9 years to make it 1900. And you add 9 years to 68 years, that would be 77 years. For 77 years. I want you to remember that number very, very well. For 77 years, nobody could run the 100 meters under 10 seconds. It was always within the 10-second range. So what changed? What changed and started making people run under 10 seconds into the 9-second range? Steroids. And the first person to break that 10-second barrier was a guy called Jim Hines. And meanwhile, Jim Hines had been running this same 100 meters for years. And he was still running it under or within the 10-second range. Then all of a sudden, he dropped it down to 9:95. What do you think changed? Steroids. So the whole idea of sports, it's really not about the best way I can put it. It's not really about the best performing athlete, because that's the reason why I want to play this Rich Piana video, so you guys can actually listen to what he has to say, so you can understand that white supremacy is as false as, I don't know what I should even call it, how false it is. It's based on no truth. You will never get any truth from anything that the media is being run by the system of this world, which is run by white supremacy at the moment. All right. So let me play this video and you guys should listen carefully. I'm going to play it up to like maybe 7 minutes of the video. Then I'm going to stop and then I'm going to come back so we can get into what I'm about to show you. Because remember, I told you I had a story to tell you that you should bring up a quarter, a dime, a nickel and a penny. So keep that in mind if you have done so. Let's play this video first and then we can continue.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm here with Dylan. Met him today at the expo. And this guy just blew my mind seeing his fucking genetics. Like, unfucking believable. Crazy ass all over the waist. Big ass full muscle bellies. And looking at this guy, I would guess he would weigh at least 250, and he weighs 215. 215. How is that possible? His small little joints, full muscle bellies, and it's fucking insane genetics that I don't have that I wish I had. And probably because I'm a white motherfucker. He's black, we all know. So like I told him earlier, I said if I ever come out with my own bodybuilding fucking contest or whatever, I'm gonna have, it's not gonna be lightweight, middleweight, it's gonna be black guys is in this class and white guys are in this class. Because it's unfair. Sorry. At the Mr. Olympia, top 5 was black guys. There's a reason for that shit. And when you see a white guy in the top 5, it's because they need to throw a white guy in the mix, because otherwise it just don't look right. So they just throw a motherfucker in there. And every time that white guy doesn't belong in top 5. I'm not going to name any names. I'm just talking shit. Don't mind me. Being funny. All right, brother. So what we're going to do is...
So you have heard Rich Piana talk about that blacks, all right, are superior genetically, that there's no comparison whatsoever. And he said that if he ever had a competition, it wouldn't be black guys and white guys in the same lump. That they would just totally pull the black guys and make them compete by themselves, and make the white guys compete by themselves also, because they can compete together because blacks are superior. That is what Rich Piana said. He's somebody who has been known in the industry for telling you the truth and telling you like it is. But then he added something else. I'm just joking. He said that. I'm telling you the truth. He said I was just joking. I'm just playing around. So why would he add that? Because he told you the truth in the first part, and then he added the lie by telling you, I'm just joking. So whatsoever he told you in the first part is negated, because now you hear that and you say, oh, he was just joking. It's not true. That is how white supremacy operates. There is no truth in whatsoever. If they tell you any amount of truth, it's only to tell you a lie. So like I've said before, all athletes, it doesn't matter if you're as long as you're in the professional ranks of being an athlete, they are on steroids. Let me give you a typical example in bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is a very extreme sport at the professional level. So in order for a lot of bodybuilders to have that what they call shredded look, they do a lot of things to be shredded. But they don't completely tell you the whole truth because they don't want you to know this. So I'm just going to spill the beans right here. So in most competitions, when a bodybuilder bulks up, he builds a lot of muscle. But to let the muscles show, he has to strip off the fat from his body so the muscles can really show. It doesn't matter if he's a black guy, or it doesn't matter if he's an albino, as we call it. White, that means anybody with straight hair. Okay? So when you're building the muscle and you're getting ready for the competition, you go through a lot of cardio to strip out the fat. But the body, because the way the body reacts is like when he sees that you're leaning out, the body's going to want to eat more, okay? But the idea is that you don't want to build fat, you want to build muscle. So how are you going to strip fat and have more muscle showing? Because some of these guys reduce their body fat percentages to a very low body fat percentage, sometimes as low as 7% body fat while on stage. How can you maintain that? Because in a natural sense, when the body knows that it's losing fat, it's also going to lose muscle. That's just the way it works. So how do you trick the body and make it stop losing the muscle and lose only fat? Because when you're eating, the body is going to also want to attack the muscles to have some sort of energy so that it can go on with its normal daily processes. What these guys do is take some coke or heroin, some hard drugs. What do hard drugs do? Hard drugs cut the appetite for you to feed, all right? But it tricks the body into thinking that it has enough energy reserve so it doesn't attack the muscles. That is what competitive bodybuilding is about. They take hard drugs to cut off, all right, the appetite that the body has for feeding on its muscle instead of its fat. So everybody in bodybuilding is doing professional bodybuilding. Let me say that right. Is doing some sort of steroids. So that means, as you've heard from Rich Piana here talk about the genetic difference between being an albino, which he is, which he calls white, and the black guy on his right here, and talking about the bodybuilding competition, he's letting you know that in athletics, it's all about, it's not really about athletic performance. It's about maintaining the system of white supremacy. Because there is racism in everything. So I just wanted to show you that so you can see how white supremacy performs. That there is no truth in it. Absolutely no truth at all. So with that said, let's get into the story that I told you to have a quarter, a dime, a nickel, and a penny. And if you've pulled it out in the proper order, like I said, by keeping the quarter first, the dime next, and the nickel, and the penny, and making sure that the faces of the president are facing in whatever direction that they're going to be facing. If you lined it up correctly, you will notice that the quarter, the dime, and the nickel is going to face left. It's going to face left to your orientation, but it actually means that the presidents are looking right. And that the nickel, which has Abraham Lincoln's face, is going to be facing right. That means Abraham Lincoln is looking left. But when you look at it, it's going to be looking right. And you also notice that the penny is colored copper. Now, the next few statements that I'm going to make is not based on any proof. But we are investigating a lot of myths that's been told to us by the elite who run the world today, who happen to be albino and living in the Vatican. You'll understand what we're saying by the end of this video a little bit more. So let's get into it. So if you did get your quarter, your nickel, your dime, and your penny in the right order, this is what you should be getting. All right. You would see that all three presidents, President George Washington, who's on the quarter, 25 cents, he's facing left. He's facing right because he's turning right to he's turning his right cheek. But when we're looking at it, he seems like it's facing left. So I'm just going to call the orientation that we're looking at, okay? But know that in the true orientation, he's looking right, okay? So both of them, President George Washington, Franklin D. Roosevelt, President Thomas Jefferson, they're all looking right. And only President Abraham Lincoln is looking left. And the color of this coin is colored copper, all right? And this is 1 cent, okay? Or they call it a penny in the United States. So here's the story that I want to talk to you guys about. Because the idea, the reason, because I've talked about this before. In order to control the body, you have to control the mind. our whole entire body, that means your body is designed to carry your mind, because your head is on top and the whole body supports the head. So the reason for the body is just for the head. Without the head, there is no body. Okay? So you have to control the mind. That means you have to control the head to control the body. It's not the body, the mind. It's the mind, the body. Stories are told to us every day, and we never for a second stop to think about it. Now, the story I'm going to tell you right now is about Abraham Lincoln, okay? But I am going to use Donald Trump to tell you the story. So, Donald Trump, as we all know, is an albino, or we can call him a white man, as they say. For the sake of this video, let's just say that Donald Trump is a white man, okay? Irrespective of whatsoever he is. Now, let's say that Donald Trump is living in the United States around the time of Abraham Lincoln. And Donald Trump, as we all know, the world today is ran by albinos, or white people as we call it. So let's say Donald Trump is living the time of Abraham Lincoln, and they have slaves. That means black people or people with woolly hair are slaves in that era. And let's say that Donald Trump, let me just put it right. Let me just make this story a little bit more right. So let's go back a little further. Let's say Donald Trump. I said that the story would be about Abraham Lincoln, but I'm using Donald Trump as reference. Let's say in this particular era, let's forget about that I said that Donald Trump lived in the Abraham Lincoln era. Let's say that he's living in this era right now, because Donald Trump lives right now in this era. Let's say Donald Trump, who happens to be the president of the United States, and the United States is run by white people, by albinos, as we call it. Let's say Donald Trump makes an order and says that he wants to give every black person every month from henceforth $200. That means as long as you have woolly hair, you be getting paid $200. And Donald Trump goes to all his white friends and all the companies that are being run in the United States, and he tells them that you have to pay all black people $200. If you do not pay all black people $200 specifically, that you're going to get in trouble, and he's coming to get you, and he'll have the United States military coming for you. I want you guys to think about the scenario for a minute and let it sink deep into your consciousness. Would Donald Trump win that fight? Him being a white dude, going against all his white friends and saying that he wants to pay, all right, all black people $200 every month for free, that they have to pay it. Only black people. I want you to think about the scenario and think if it's possible and doable in today's society, and that Donald Trump would win that fight, him being a white man going against all his white friends and making them to pay black people $200 from their own pockets. Is that story believable? Now, why am I telling you the story? The reason why I'm telling you this story is because we have been told all through history that Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, and that Abraham Lincoln made the whole United States of America go into a civil war because of abolishing slavery. And Abraham Lincoln was white. I want you to think about that for a second. Does that story sound believable to you? Based on the fact that this happened. Remember, we are so far away from the slave trade today, or slavery era as we say it, in the year 2018. And even no matter how far we've been, we still have a lot of racism in the United States. Now imagine for a second that a white man in the 1800s went to war with his other white friends to free black people from slavery. He decided to go to war. Is that even possible? I want you to think about it now, because we've been hearing this story for a very long time. I don't think that Abraham Lincoln was a white man. If Abraham Lincoln wasn't white, based on the story, because it is impossible to believe, if you open your mind to the thought that a white man would go to war against his other white fellows for keeping slaves, somebody who's not of his own ethnicity. He has nothing to gain from it, because what Abraham Lincoln did was made a lot of white people lose money by keeping their slaves. So is it possible that Abraham Lincoln and the stories that we've been told throughout history about the origins of the United States is all false? Is it possible that all the presidents up to the time of Abraham Lincoln were not white, as we're told, and that the images that we see of these presidents are not who they say they are? Because if Abraham Lincoln was such a great man, why would they try to wipe him out by giving him a 1 cent, all right, the lowest denomination for money in the United States, on a very small copper-colored coin? And why is he facing the opposite direction to all the other presidents of the United States? Is it possible that this man here in Abraham Lincoln wasn't a white man, that he was a woolly-haired man who was president? Is it possible that all the United States presidents, from George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, James Monroe, John Quincy Adams, Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James Knox Polk, Zachary Taylor, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, James Buchanan, and Abraham Lincoln were all black presidents? And that at this time in which Abraham Lincoln went to war in the years between 1861 and 1865, that war destroyed and removed all the black leaderships in the United States, some who were keeping slaves and some who were not, because we all know that the first people who came to the United States were black, woolly-haired Europeans and were not white. Is it possible that this war destroyed that leadership and gave the chance for the albinos who run the United States today, who have run it from the Vatican, who took over the Vatican, gave them a chance to now run the United States also as well? Is it possible? Is a question. So that's one of the stories that we have to look into, to find out if there's any truth at all in what we've been told throughout history. Because one of the things that I found out is that the mystery of white supremacy, all right, is not based on any truth at all. White supremacy has made us believe in so many false theories because the idea is to remain the elite at the expense of the people whom they overthrew. Now I'm going to tell you another story now. Naturally, the world has been made to believe, because we watch a lot of TV and we listen to a lot of news information out there, that the population of the world is about, let's say, 7 billion people at this point in time. And out of these 7 billion people, that we have about, let's say, 3 billion Indians and Chinese, and that we have about 2 billion black people and other ethnicities that are not black. So that means if you divide the 7 billion people up, if you divide it up, you're gonna have only, let's say, 1/5 of them being black people with woolly hair. We've been told this 1,000 times over. And if you watch the movie Black Panther, Black Panther, like I said before, is gonna be we're gonna allow it for it to come on DVD, but you're gonna get a small snippet of it on this particular video, in which we're gonna break down that movie for you to understand what was really going on. In the movie Black Panther, Killmonger said that the population of black people in the world was 2 billion people. It seems like every time the Vatican, the white or the albino Vatican, supremacist Vatican, is throwing out this number at us all the time, trying to make us understand that there are very few black people in the world. Very few of them. They do it in so many ways. Because I do remember that before, let's say before the 1990s, we never heard of China having a population of 1.3 billion people and India having 1.3 billion people. Then all of a sudden, this sudden explosion came out from nowhere that there's so many people in China and India. Now, I'm going to show you to a website. I want you to go read up this website. You can click on the link and I'll show you that. And the website here says that it has doubts about China's population figures. Now, you know, the way white supremacy works is this. They'll tell you a very big lie, all right? If you don't accept that big lie, they'll tell you another smaller lie, so that one way or the other, you're going to be jumping from one lie to the other and never at the truth. So in here, this article is going to say that it has doubts about China's population figures. You can pause the video at any point in time and copy this link out so you can go read up about it for yourself. I'm going to just read a little bit, then we can continue talking. It says, for about a dozen years now, I firmly believe that there are far fewer people in China than official statistics report. The Chinese government says 1.3 billion, but my eyes and judgment as CNN's reporter, they tell me something else, and I choose to believe the latter. I believe a lot of places in China in the past 20 years have found the country to be mostly empty. I'm not talking about the Gobi Desert or Tibet, where there isn't supposed to be a lot of people. I'm talking about the parts of China where there's purportedly a huge crushing mass of human population. I've seen many people in Chinese cities, but it's not anything like it's in Indian cities where you see, this is where the lie creeps in now. So they already tell you, I mean, these guys are wonderful in the way they tell you stories. They already tell you the big lie that China's population is not what they make you want to believe, all right? And then they jump to the other lie. So if you don't believe the Chinese population is very small, I want you to believe that the Indian population is the truth. It's about 1.3 or 1.5 billion people, as they say. So let's just keep on reading. We'll talk about this later. It says, I've seen many people in Chinese cities, but it's not anything like it's in Indian cities where you see, smell, and hear people everywhere. In major Chinese cities, if you leave the crowded center, you can drive a long way on empty boulevards devoid of pedestrians and ask yourself, where are the Chinese? Outside the major cities are jungle, farmland, and wilderness that welcome you in areas that are supposed to be densely populated. To be sure, there are many places in China where I've found a great deal of people. I've had my bones crushed by thick crowds and buses and subways at rush hour in Shanghai and Hangzhou, and I've sat hopelessly in traffic jams in Beijing and Guangzhou. But at the same time, I simply cannot believe that Henan, a central province that is 1/4 the size of France, is home to 100 million people, nearly double France's population. Okay? So I won't have time to read into all this, but you can pause the video like I said, copy out the link, and go read up on it. The whole system of white supremacy is a fraud. Fraud from top to bottom. There is absolutely no truth in it. And here's one thing I have to tell you. I just want to tell you something. I've been around the world and I've been a lot of places. And despite being a lot of places, my mind was never open, all right, to thinking about what I was seeing. I still love watching Cat Williams. Cat Williams made a statement one time when I was watching one of his comedy shows. He said, there are black people everywhere in this world. He made the joke and said that, an albino or white man will wake up and say he wants to go somewhere. And when he goes there, he just goes sees black people just laying around. And he goes to another place and say, oh, there should be no black people in this island. It's all just gonna sorry to say, it's just gonna be me by myself all alone. And it's not gonna be any black people. And he goes there and he finds black people. So at the time when I heard Cat Williams say this, I was just laughing at this dude. I'm saying, this dude must be crazy. He thinks black people are everywhere? Mind you, I have traveled the world when I heard this. This is what happens when your mind is conditioned by what you see and hear so much on TV and what the Vatican's white supremacist media tells you without you looking at the truth. So now we're observing the truth. So we're going to observe the truth. And the truth is that we want to find out, which continent in the world is the largest. Because based on how big the continent is, it's going to have more people in it. So for us to do this, we're going to pull up a world map. All right, I'm going to pull up the map of the world. And looking at this map right here, because, white supremacy, just looking at this map, anybody looking at this map would look at Africa and say, Africa is so small. But what is the true size of Africa in the first place? So let me try to blow this up as much as I can so you guys can see it perfectly well. So the way we're going to judge this is that we're going to judge the flight time it takes to cross amongst the continents. So for example, if you live in the United States, and you're traveling from the west coast of the United States to the east coast. Now, some people get confused about when they say west coast and east coast. What comes to your mind is Los Angeles and New York City. All right. But you have to know that New York is in the north. Let's say the right location for New York would be the northeastern portion of the United States. So once it goes into the northeastern portion of anything, that means you're traveling in a northern direction or north-southerly direction. So if you're traveling from New York to Los Angeles, you'll be traveling in a north-southerly direction towards Los Angeles, because they're not the same at the same point of latitude. For example, right here, looking at my screen, Los Angeles would be around right here, and New York would be around right here. So you'll be traveling diagonally. So that means you'll be traveling, like, let's say, traveling the length of the United States. That's the best way I can put it. So if you're flying, the flight time, flying from the west coast of the United States to the east coast of the United States is going to take you 4 hours and some minutes. All right. If you're traveling in a north to south direction, would be the direction that we'll be flying diagonally from Los Angeles to New York City, or from New York City to Los Angeles, it's going to take you about 5 hours. So that's a north top to down, bottom direction, from north to south. Now, if you're traveling anywhere, all right, in Europe on a flight, anywhere across Europe, the most time you're going to spend is 1 hour and 40 minutes anywhere across Europe. Except you're going to Russia, then you can spend up to, let's say, maybe 2 hours or thereabout, but that's max tops, okay? If you're traveling in Africa, if you're going from West Africa, as we say it today, that means from the Atlantic around this area, to the eastern portion of Africa and towards the, let's say, what they usually call the Horn of Africa, where you have like Ethiopia and the Sudan right here, is going to take you 9 hours of flight time. I'm just trying to say an average of 9 hours. That means it can take you up to 10 or 11 hours flying from the western portion of Africa to the eastern portion of Africa towards the Horn of Africa. If you're traveling from the northern tip of Africa down to South Africa, it's going to take you 11 hours of flight time. 11 hours. So that would take you 11 by almost 11 hours flying through the continent of Africa. There is no other continent in which this kind of registered flight time does exist. So automatically that tells you that Africa is the largest continent in the world. But why is Africa being portrayed to be so small on the maps? Because they want you to think that Africa is just a small continent. The idea is to make black people to believe that they are the minority. So if you think that anything that I'm saying right here does not make any sense or doesn't have any truth on it, next time you fly, because all the flight times that I've mentioned to you, I have been in it. Okay? So get and check, maybe just try to get on your laptop or your any tablet that you have, and try to see if you can book a flight, a straight flight without any connections, to see the flight time, because white supremacy does know that people are catching up to this. So on most let's say airlines, when you try to book a flight, they don't show you the duration of the time that you're going to be spending, so you don't know how many hours or how long the flight is going to be, so you don't make sense of things. So get on your laptops, all right, and check out this flight times for yourself and see. You don't have to be a frequent flyer, just check it out. And then you start to know that Africa is the largest continent in the world. And another proof is in the River Nile. The River Nile is the longest river in the world. But when you get on the website and try to check it out and see which longest river is going to be in the world, they're going to tell you something like the Amazon, all right? But we're talking about distance traveling from top to bottom in a straight line. We're not talking about the Amazon, which is circling around in almost around the same place and saying that it is the longest river. The longest river in the world is the Nile. And for it to be the longest river in the world, it has to be on the biggest continent on the planet. So that is one of the things that I just want you guys to check it out and see for yourself, so you can understand what's really going on here. And I never for a second thought about it to say, hold on. How can you have 1.3 billion Chinese and maybe 1.4 billion Indians, as they say, that there are much more of them than black people? In the first place, let's think about this logically. Being black is the dominant gene. That means is the nature of man. And having straight hair or being an albino is recessive. So how can the recessive traits have much more population than the dominant gene species? Now, this whole idea of making China and India have the greatest population in the world is on paper. It's not truth. Because there are more black people around the world than anybody else. Everywhere you go, you're going to see black people. You're going to see black people everywhere you go. The only places you do not see black people, or you don't see black people, are in places which are very, very heavily prejudiced against black people. I didn't say racist, because there's a difference between racism and prejudice. And a lot of people don't understand that. In the book, we go into fine detail about that to make you understand the differences between prejudice and racism. So you find black people everywhere. But yet the numbers are being underreported. You go to the Caribbean, you just see black people. You go to South America, black people. You go to the United States, black people. You go to Europe, you still find black people. They may be immigrants, but there are still a lot of black people. You go to China, you still find black people over there. You go over to the Pacific Islands, you still find a lot of black people. So why is it that they make us believe that black people are a very small population in the world? It's because it's this. White supremacy has to make black people have an under siege mentality, to always believe that they're the smaller and minority of the world's population. Because if you do not do that and control their minds, you're not going to be able to control the bodies. Because if the black people of the world realize, especially the so-called black agents, which the Vatican uses to make this possible, because a lot of people think that white supremacy is evil and bad, but the biggest traitors of all time are the black agents who are making it possible. Because without the black agents, all the black leaders, it doesn't matter what name you want to call them, whether it be Martin Luther King or not, they're all agents of the Vatican, because the Vatican provided the platform for them to tell you whatever they want to tell you. Let me show you something about Martin Luther King that's going to shock you for a minute. Let me show you that. What you're looking at right here is the last speech that Martin Luther King gave before he died. Now, if you read or you listen to how Martin Luther King died, you will hear that he died in a hotel. The hotel, I think, was called the Lorraine Hotel. And one of the guys who narrates the story says that Martin Luther King was in room 306, and there were 3 preachers of them inside that hotel room a few minutes before Martin Luther King came out on the balcony and got shot dead. Is that a strange coincidence that you have the Vatican code of numbers in there? 3 preachers in room 306 in the Lorraine Hotel? That's not a coincidence. If you've heard me talk about the Vatican Code of Numbers, get on the channel and look for the Lisa Lopes video or Lisa Lopez video. I don't know how to pronounce it. And just look for the playlist called Vatican Code of Numbers. It will explain that for you. So it's not a strange coincidence that Martin Luther King was in that hotel room. Now, we're looking at a speech. What you're looking at on my screen right now is a speech that Martin Luther King did before he died. You could pause the video and copy out this link and go read up on it. Now, what I want you to notice in this particular article is this, that Martin Luther King spoke on April 3rd, 1968. Is that a coincidence that a Vatican Code of Number is on the speech date that Martin Luther King spoke? I don't remember if he died on this particular day. He says he gave this speech at the Mason Temple, Church of God in Christ headquarters. He gave a speech. A so-called man of God who was trying to deliver a message to his own people gave a speech at a Masonic temple. Is that a coincidence? So when you hear me say that black leaders are the worst traitors of all time, because white supremacy is only possible because they buy into it and allow it. And one of the methods of controlling the black agents is making blacks in general, because a lot of black leaders are very, very stupid. They have no idea. They just go about that since it's coming from a man that's white or an albino, that is the truth. So since we've been force-fed every time that China has 1.3 billion people, India has 1.3 billion people, and through the movies such as Black Panther that there's only 2 billion blacks in the world, we all believe that blacks are a majority. That blacks are a minority. But the truth is this, there is 15 people to every person that has straight hair. That is the population. There are more black people in the world than all the people in the world who have straight hair combined. But the white supremacists don't want the black people to know that. They want you to believe that you're a minority. Because when you believe that you're a minority, you always act as one. So they serve all this sort of nonsense to black people, including the stupid black agents which they use to run the world, and make them believe you guys are so small. This just makes me laugh. You guys are so small. You are a minority. The world is 3/4 black. The number of people just in Africa alone surpasses everybody else around the world. Talk less of the other blacks combined. That's just truth. But they make them believe that they are the minority, because they tell you China has 1.3 billion people and the landmass is so small, and in India and all the other continents compared to Africa, so small. But they make you believe that. Why? So that the black people will never realize that they are the majority, and that maybe one person with brains will not come to that fact and make you realize, hey, we are more than them. So this myth of white supremacy is not real. That is the trick. The majority of the world's population is black. 1/4 of it is actually albino. But because the media tells us everything, and because we're trained in the media system, right? In the schools, the movies, whatsoever you hear, read, the billboards, it's all painted white. You actually believe that you're so small, that you are a minority. And that's how white supremacy thrives and progresses and keeps on controlling our lives and telling us the truth. Does that mean if a black person runs the world, it's going to be better? I'm not saying that. I'm just letting you guys know the truth because, like I've said before, the black people are the worst. Let me just say it right before anybody just jumps on me right now. Okay? Most black people are the worst traitors to humankind. Because let's make you understand that. Blacks are such horrible people that you find that black people practice white supremacy. You probably heard this before. A black person will say, no, I don't deal with black people. You've heard that. If a white person or an albino says that, we can understand that very well because that is what the system has trained him or her to be. That white people or albinos are superior over black people. But the system has never trained any black person to believe that he is superior over a white person. So where do the black people get the mentality like, I don't deal with blacks? You hear that a lot of times. I don't really deal with any black people. That's what they'll just tell you. I don't deal with blacks. You hear that all the time. And then it's so sad that people are just, even black people are prejudiced so wrongly. Like you hear a lot of women say this, especially black women, because the system is biased towards males, okay? So a black man can't say anything but he's black, even though he might look different, but he's not going to say anything else. But you find that so many black women will tell you, I'm mixed, I'm red bone, I'm mixed with Canadian or something other than the fact that they're black. Because why? They can get away with it because they can flat iron the hair, all right, and straighten it out. They can bleach the skin, can wear makeup, and look anything else but their true black selves. So they can get away with that, okay? But black males can get away with that. I mean, if you met a cop on the road and you try to say, look, man, I'm not black, and you talk like, because we make to believe that blacks talk a certain way and that albinos or whites talk a certain way, and you have this black dude who may have light skin trying to act like he is not black, and the cop finds him and he says, oh, tries to talk to him like, regularly, like how cops, regularly harass black people in the United States. And he says, look, man, I'm not black. The cop is going to look at the cop just going to get on the phone and say, we have a very aggressive, deluded black male here. How do we proceed? But that is how most black people are. They are prejudiced against them themselves. Where did they get that from? Because the system doesn't promote black superiority. So where did they get it from? That's how you recognize that most black people are the most treacherous of all people in the world, especially the leaders. They believe everything else. They go out of their own way to destroy their own people. Where did they get that from? So that's what I'm trying to let you know, that the system of white supremacy is only possible because black people enjoy it. Most black people, some black people, I'm not saying all of it, some black people like it that way because it makes them feel that they are superior to their other black individuals or black counterparts. So that's why white supremacy is the most horrible, demonic ideology that has ever been let into the world, because anybody can practice it irrespective of what the texture of their hair is. Anybody can practice it. In most places, like you walk into a store, you start judging people by the texture of their hair rather than who they are or what they say. The hair looks woolly, you start acting a certain way. The hair is straight, you act correct, and you say, oh, he's going to come correct. That's what white supremacy does. And the worst traitors of all are the black people who practice it. So the whole idea now is this. The reason for all these lies of telling us that the population of India, the population of China, is that much number of people, and that black people are really small, that only 2 billion of them out of the 7 billion, is to give blacks an under-siege mentality, especially the black leaders, so they do not realize that they have the biggest landmass in the world, the biggest landmass with people, and that everywhere you go, there are black people. You don't see Chinese people everywhere you go. You don't see Indians everywhere you go. But everywhere you go, you see black people. That is a fact. So that is just what all these lies are all about. So that's the information I have for you guys right now. So we're going to switch gears and let's go look into the so-called people who actually ate the apple. Are they male as they are being portrayed to us, or is it something else? So let's do that. So here is Steve Jobs with Mike McCullough. Now, Mike McCullough, there are the people, according to us, history are the people who started Apple. The Vatican doesn't want you to know that these guys were just the mask, or these girls, rather, let me just call them right, because they're both girls, were just a mask of Apple. That Steve Jobs was not the owner of Apple. The Vatican is the one controlling the perception of reality that we have, and putting up stooges like this as a front, so we wouldn't know that there's a monarchy behind controlling everything that we see, hear, or read, and that Apple is another stooge, one of the arms of the Vatican. So here is Steve Jobs, as you can see right here. Steve Jobs has hips below the crutch. As you can see, this Q angle is very, very cute, because Steve Jobs was not a man as he was made us. I'm mixing up my words. I'm sorry. Steve Jobs is not the man that we were told that he was. Steve Jobs was actually a female. I want you to take a good look at this. He starts getting wider from under the elbows, gets wider, spreads wider, and this is the widest point, which is below his crutch. This genes has made him to have, like, the crutch is right over here, because it's one of the tricks of the trade, but the crutch is actually here. And this is where the location of Steve Jobs' hips is at. Same with Mike McCullough, which you'll find out sooner or later, that these are both females, and none of them were males in any way, shape, or form. Okay, let's move further. Next picture, and here is again Steve Jobs. Let me read something from Steve Jobs' wiki page on how he died before we continue any further. Just to look at these pictures to show you that Steve Jobs was a total fraud, and Tim Cook and the others that we're gonna cover today. So let's take a look at that Wikipedia page first. So here we go. So you can pause the video at any point in time and copy out this link. It says Steve Paul Jobs, February 24th, 1955 to 5th of October 2011, was an American contemporary business, a magnate, inventor, and industrial designer. He was a chairman, chief executive, CEO, and co-founder of Apple Incorporated, CEO and majority shareholder of Pixar, a member of the Walt Disney Company's board of directors. And remember, we already covered Walt Disney on this channel. Can you guys see the correlation right here? Disney to Apple, both females, and the Vatican code of numbers here, that he was born on February 24th, 2 + 4 = 6, and he died at the age of 56 right here. Is that a coincidence? Of course not, because this is a Vatican stooge. He's just the face. I bet you Steve Jobs doesn't know he's just a storyteller. That's the best way I could say it. He wouldn't know a thing about anything about technology, even writing a code of a program, because he was just the face. He was the one told to us, all right, as the face of Apple, made us to believe that they invented Apple when it was actually the Vatican. And who ate the apple? The apple was eaten by a woman named Eve. So who do you think this is? I mean, this guy's just talking symbology. You guys don't catch it. Apple. And they tell you Steve Jobs. All right. So let's go further. So here's a picture of Steve Jobs, and as you can see that he is spreading. I mean, the clothes were tailor-made and designed to hide the humongous hips that Steve Jobs had because he was 100% female. A lot of people who get confused, those gullible people who come on the channel, they're going to ask questions like, oh, Steve Jobs is balding. His head, how can he have a bald head if he was female? Really? Because they do not pay attention to the skeletal structure. They're still gullible in their minds, not seeing that you're looking at very humongous hips right here of a female, and this could never be a man. Let's go further. Here's another picture of Steve Jobs in his much younger years. As you can see right here, these hips are spreading and very huge, humongous hips. The crotch is not here, the crotch is right here, and this is where the hips is at, below the crotch, because Steve Jobs was 100% female, was never a man in the first place. Let's go further. Here's Steve Jobs again. As you can see, the way the arms go around here, all right, and that he starts spreading from underneath there. Let me see if I can blow this up so you guys can see. I know it's getting blurry, but he starts spreading there and gets wider. Now, these jeans he's wearing and his feet are so wide apart, so he doesn't show you that the Q angle is below the crotch. But we can still see this spread right here. That is right here. It's below the crotch from where the Q angle starts. Don't mind the long lapel that he has in front to give you the idea that the crotch is right here. No man's crotch can be hung that low. His crotch is right here. And here is where the Q angle starts, because Steve Jobs is 100% female. He's not a man. Let's go further. Here's Steve Jobs again in his much younger years. I want you to take a good look. The Q angle doesn't lie. Even though the picture is blurry, it's spreading all downwards and is right here. The Q angle is below the crotch because Steve Jobs is 100% female. Don't worry, we have some better pictures coming up. And look at this. I want you to take a good look again. Here is Steve Jobs again in his much younger years. Look at that. Just take a look. The Q angle is below the crotch. See that? It's not starting way up here. It's starting below here. Look at that. Q angle below the crotch. Because Steve Jobs is 100% female. He's not a man. Let's go. Another picture of Steve Jobs here taking a phone call. And this should be as clear as night and day, even though it's black and white. But you can see that this Q angle is in the wrong position for a man. It is below the crotch. Crotch right here, Q angle is below it. And see how it spreads wider, very acute, large hips. And him making a call, or she making a call, I should say, because Steve Jobs is 100% female and is not a man. Here's Steve Jobs again. He can't seem to put the hands on the feet on the male hip because it doesn't, male waist, because it doesn't exist. That is the location of the female pelvis right there. See how that hand sits right here? Very, very uncomfortable. Because Steve Jobs is 100% female. Was never a man. All right, let's go. Here is Steve Jobs again in his younger years. I want you to take a good look. Let me try to blow this up again. Look at that Q angle right here. Look at that. Below the crotch and very, very acute. Because Steve Jobs is 100% female. Was never a man in the first place. Take a good look at that. Look at that right here. Look at that. Because Steve Jobs was a woman. 100% stooge of the Vatican. Here's another Steve Jobs right there. Younger years of Steve Jobs. Let me try to blow this up. We couldn't find a very clear, precise pictures of him looking this way, but you can see that this Q angle right here is so glaring. This is clear as night and day. Look at that. Humongous hips and Q angle below the crotch. Look at that. Look at this. All this right here below the crotch, because Steve Jobs is 100% female. Judge for yourselves and see. This was no man. This is a stooge of the Vatican. All right, another picture. Steve Jobs again. As you can see, there's an arch in that back right there with the way he is bending down, or she is bending down rather. Sorry if I confuse the words and I mix it up, him or her, but you guys know what I'm talking about. He's a she. Bending down, arch in the back right here, because Steve Jobs is 100% female, a stooge of the Vatican. So even on your iPhone, when you think that your Steve Jobs is talking to you, the Vatican is the one talking. It's not Steve Jobs. Look at this again. Steve Jobs, Q angle below the crotch with Bono. We have already covered Bono, right? Two females, and he's smiling, or they're both smiling at each other because they know what they're up or who they are, that they're covering for the big bosses in the Vatican. Steve Jobs, 100% female, Q angle below the crotch. All right, here is again. I want you to see that. It's not here. The Q angle is not above like it should be for a man. It's below. Look at this. Look at that. Below. And Steve Jobs is catwalking. Wow. Steve Jobs is catwalking like a woman because Steve Jobs is 100% female. He's not a man. All right. Here's Steve Jobs with Tim Cooks. So they switch from one, transgender male to another in Tim Cooks. And Tim Cooks openly says, "Oh, I am gay." He never told you he was female. He just wanted you to get fixated on the fact that he's a homosexual by using that beautiful word gay. Wow, look at this humongous hips on these fellas. Look at this. Look at this. Tim Cooks. Humongous hips. Both females. Let's go further. Here is Steve Jobs again. I want you to take a good look. Is that a man? Somebody might think this is a gay or homosexual man just trying to look effeminate, but no. This is a woman because she can't even find or place the hands well on the male waist because it doesn't exist. That is the female pelvis right there where his hands at. And look at this. Look at how this bum spreads out. Hanging low like a female bum usually does because the bum is going to hang closer to the edge. Like where the edge ends for a female is going to be closer to where her hips at because that's just the way the female is designed. And look at this low hung butt because Steve Jobs is 100% female. Was never a man. Right, let's go. Here's Mike McCullough. We already covered that, but you can see that the Q angle here is below the crotch because Mike McCullough was also a female. So that whole storyline of they telling you that these were the inventors of Apple was actually Vatican, the Vatican who invented it and just used them as a cover. That's all they are. Look at that again. This Q angle again. Mike McCullough. That's the Q angle of a female right there. 100% female, was never a man. So that goes your history right out the door. All the people that you thought were icons were actually very, very false. And here is Steve Jobs again. As you can see, these humongous hips. Let me blow this up. Sorry, I'm mixing up my words. Let me blow this up so you can see. Look at that. Humongous hips. Steve Jobs, 100% female. Was never a man in the first place. All right, let's go. Steve Jobs, you can still see that butt now. Looking at the way the female butt usually looks. Look at that. Low hung butt. Steve Jobs, 100% female. Was never a man. All right. We're going to show you that picture. Here is how the Vatican and white supremacy makes you believe in storytelling, because the only way they're controlling your mind is not controlling your mind by reality, because reality is always going to point you to creation. But since the white supremacist Vatican works for the devil, they're always going to try to bring in lies. So here is what's happening here. They know that Steve Jobs is a female, and they choose Michael Fassbender, who's a bona fide male, to act a movie called Steve Jobs, so that they can paint, all right? So they can cover up the lie with the truth. So when you look at Michael Fassbender, because the movies that came out, Michael Fassbender acted as Steve Jobs, you're going to think, oh, Steve Jobs was a male, and you're going to believe it. The same thing they did with Selena Q. Selena Q was male. They made Jennifer Lopez, who's a bona fide female with a very curvaceous figure, to act like Selena Q and sell you the lie with the truth. That's what they do. So I just wanted you to see that so you guys can know how these guys operate. Here is Tim Cooks. As you can see, these are the humongous hips of a woman. Tim Cooks also. The current, I don't know if it's Tim Cook or Tim Cooks, but whatever the case, you know who I'm talking about. This is a woman. It's not a man also. All right, let's go. Some other pictures of this is okay. I already showed you this before. Mike McCullough and Steve Jobs. Here, as you can see, this Q angle doesn't lie all day. It's below the crotch because Steve Jobs, as you can see, is a female. So I wonder if all that his sickness was as a result of taking all the hormones in trying to stay male, or was it just a fabrication? We'll never know, but we know this for sure, that Steve Jobs was 100% female, was never a man in the first place. So let's go some more pictures, and here is who? This is Tim Cook's. Look at that, humongous hips below the crotch and Q angle. Look at that. This kind of hips would make any woman jealous. Look at that, humongous hips, because he's 100% female, was never a man in the first place. Tim Cook's again, look at that. Tim Cook's trying to hide the hips by spreading the legs way too wide. But we can see that he's spreading from the elbows and getting wider because Tim Cook's is 100% female. You gotta take a good look at that face and see if you've been looking at the face of a male or a female for a very long time. Let's go, another picture. Look at this. Look at this, humongous looking hips. Q angle below the crotch right here. Look at that, how wide and how huge this hourglass figure is of the hips, because Tim Cook's is 100% female, and the navel is in the wrong position. It's set way too high in the torso of the body. It should be lower if this was a male, but because it's not, it's set higher, and this humongous hips and him spreading wider from underneath the elbows all the way down shows you that Tim Cook is 100% female. Look at that face now. Is that the face of a male? You can tell right now that you've been looking at a woman all along because your eyes were closed. You were listening to the fine storytelling that the albino supremacists in the Vatican are telling the world every single day without looking at the reality. Let's go further. Here is Tim Cook's again. Look at that. Q angle is below the crotch because he's 100% female. That's a woman walking and smiling. 100% female. It's not a man. Some more pictures. Tim Cook's again. Look at that hourglass figure. Elbows right here. Spreads wider, 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 wider. And the widest point is below the crotch because Tim Cook's is 100% female. Tim Cook. Sorry if I say Tim Cook's or Tim Cook. You know who I'm talking about. All right. Tim Cook again. Look at that. Wide hips. Goodness gracious. This would make any woman with very small hips very jealous. Look at the wide hips spreading, just jutting out from the body ridiculously because Tim Cook is 100% female. That is a woman. It's not a man. You've been lied to that your favorite Apple phone was owned by some great man when you did not know it's owned by the Vatican. All things come from the Vatican. Let's go. Here is Tim Cook again. Look at that Q angle right there. Says I'm female all day because this is a woman. It's not a man. All right, some more pictures and look at Tim Cook's face now. Look at that. Clear as night and day. You've been looking at a female all along, lying to you that she is gay or homosexual man, when in actual reality, it's been a woman all day. Okay, let's go some other pictures again. Look at Tim Cook again. Let's blow this one up so you can see clear as night and day that you're looking at a female starting to spread from underneath the elbows. He gets wider. See that? Wide, 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 and it ends right here. And the Q angle starts there below the crotch because Tim Cook is 100% female. Q angle starts right here below the crotch. Tim Cook, 100% woman. Apple, 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 apple. Eve ate the apple. Okay, let's go. Tim Cook again. They cut this one up because they didn't want to see when you see the hips, right? The Vatican knows his job, but you can still see that he's spreading wider from below the elbows. Let me blow this up so you guys can see what's wrong with my mouse. Come on. Look at that. Spreading wider right here. Spreading wider below the crotch. Tim Cook, 100% female. Let's go. Now, here is, I don't need to say anything anymore. You guys can see it really here, that he gets wider from underneath the elbows and terminates here. The Q angle begins here below the crotch because Tim Cook is 100% female, was never a man in the first place. A stooge of the Vatican, a servile, obedient person to the Vatican. That's what Tim Cook is. He's not. He's not an entrepreneur. He's just a storyteller. I'm sure he doesn't know any lines of code. All right, let's go. Just telling you stories. Tim Cook again. Look at that. Q angle. It's below the crotch. Below the crotch. Because Tim Cook is 100% female. Q angle below the crotch. All right, let's go. Tim Cook again. Q angle below the crotch. 100% female. Was never a man in the first place. Okay, next picture. Oh, I went too fast. Sorry. And look at this. Who do we see Tim Cook with? Oh my goodness gracious. The boss of bosses. This man who makes you think that he is just a religious leader, looking like a weakling, who is responsible for all the chaos. What he represents, not just him, the Vatican, the white albino Vatican with their stooge in Tim Cook. But he is still spreading from underneath the elbows because Tim Cook is 100% female, answering to his boss. All right, let's go. And who is this again? Tim Cook. We'll have a video on this fella soon, so just stay tuned. It's gonna be primed for something else. But nevertheless, these are two women right here. Tim Cook, a stooge reporting to another stooge who reports to the boss here. All right, let's go. Who is this? If you don't know, it's Pope Francis of the Vatican. This is the ruler of the New World Order and the world in general. All governments, they are run by him, not specifically by him, but by whosoever he represents, because he represents the Vatican, which runs the world. So let's go. Another picture. Oh, sorry. Well, we finished with Tim Cook, so we're jumping to somebody else here. Ronan Farrow. Ronan Farrow is the guy or the girl. As you can see, you're looking at a girl right there, who brought to us the so-called news that Harvey Weinstein has been busy molesting a lot of women over a certain period of time in Hollywood. Are you to believe a word that comes out of this fella's mouth when he hasn't told you that he is female with this Q angle right here below the crotch? Because Ronan Farrow is 100% female and not a man. Let's go. Another picture of Ronan Farrow. As you can see, that's a woman walking right there. And this so-called black stooge right here, a female, hasn't told you that this dude is a woman also. See that? That's why I tell you that the black leaders and black people in general, sorry, let me say that right. I don't want any black people getting on my case. That black people are the one helping to perpetuate the system of slavery that we are in today, because they are standing up for white supremacy and using white supremacy against their own fellow people, the leaders, the people in power, especially. All right, so let's go on. Here is it. Q angle below the crotch because Ronan Farrow is 100% female. Was never a man in the first place. All right, let's keep going. Ronan Farrow again. You can see that. Look at that. There is an arch in the back. As you can see how this pelvis is tilted forward right here. I don't know if this is his mother or so, but whatever the case, look at that pelvic tilt and the waist. See how that arm goes around there? It's very, very comfortable because that is the waist of a female. And look at that arch in the back right there, and the pelvic tilt going all the way down. And this is where the hip terminates, from where you have this acute Q angle, which is below the crotch. Because this so-called reporter of truth in the Harvey Weinstein fabricated case, because the Vatican doesn't want you to understand that Hollywood is run by them and that they're the ones committing pedophilia. They always want you to believe that any pedophilia cases committed in this world are committed individually by their priest and is not an organized system of pedophilia. They don't want you to know that. That is why the Vatican owns all orphanages. They're in the hospitals, so they can take and will children any way they want, for whatever purpose they want to use them to construct and mold your reality and lies that they tell you, such as the fact that China has 1.3 billion people and that India has 1.2 billion people who came out from nowhere all of a sudden, which we never heard this kind of stories before, Because I've lived for at least 30 years in this world. I never heard that. And then all of a sudden, China and India became the population hubs of the world because they don't want you to know that black people are more than anybody else in the world, and they want the blacks, especially the leaders which they use, to have an under siege mentality that they are smaller. Those are the stories that we hear because the white supremacists, the white albino or the albino Vatican loves telling us stories, and that's how they bewitch our minds. Well, we go into fine detail and explain all that in the book so you can understand what it actually means. But Ronan Farrow here is 100% female, was never a man. And whatever reports that he gave to you about Harvey Weinstein all came from the Vatican. Let's go. Harvey Weinstein again. Oh, sorry. Did I say Harvey Weinstein? Ronan Farrow again. 100% female. Look at that. Look at how the body swears. Look at that face, and look at how he starts spreading from underneath the elbows with a Q angle that's below the crotch and an hourglass figure. Because Ronan Farrow is 100% female. That's not a man. All right, let's go. Another picture right here. You can still see that pelvic tilt and arch in the back. I don't know which lady who is this, but I think she's very popular in the media, something like that. But this lady is also a fraud. Sorry, this lady is also a fraud because she did not tell you the truth that Ronan Farrow is 100% female with an arch in the back and the Q angle that's below the crotch. They are both puppets of the Vatican lying to you. All right, let's go. Another picture, and that's Ronan Farrow again. Look at that. A cute Q angle, clear as night and day. Even though this picture is very blurry because the Vatican keeps hiding its stooges very well, using them to control your perception of your reality, but you can still see that this Q angle right here is below the crotch. Look at that sticking out right there. Whop. And very, very acute. Whoosh. That is a woman. 100% female. Is not a man. Let's go. And who is this? 50 Cent. So if you ever, let me tell you something about 50 Cent. So you can know that these are pure actors and stooges of the Vatican. When 50 Cent came out a couple of years back, he was all like this, muscular man from the hood, tough street guy. He got shot, was wearing a vest around, trying to prove that he was such a tough guy. Then all of a sudden, from being super tough guy, nowadays, what does 50 Cent do? Tell jokes. Makes you laugh. What does that tell you? So all that was all an act. He was not who he claimed to be. And here he is with Ronan Farrow. So if 50 Cent is ever telling you the truth, is he telling the truth about Ronan Farrow? Let's ask him a question. What is he doing with him? All right. But we can see that the Q angle of Ronan Farrow here is below the crotch. It's very, very acute, as you can see right here. Let me blow this up again so you guys can see very, very well and see what's going on here. Look at this. Below the crotch, because Ronan Farrow is 100% female. And 50 Cent can tell you the truth about this fella. You can't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. He's just another Vatican stooge and employee. So that's what I'm telling you. That black people, or black leaders in general, because I would consider 50 Cent a leader because he's a leader in the hip-hop society or whatsoever, are the worst traitors humanity's ever faced. People think that white supremacy is bad, but these are the people like 50 Cent that are making it far more worse. Because instead of telling us the truth, seeing the enslavement that's going on in the world, especially targeted at black people as well, he would not say a word about it, but only join. Because they can't, even if they belong in some sort of, because all of them are Freemasons in the first place. But there's a certain thing that you look at and see, oh my goodness, this is way too much. Even though I'm a Freemason, I have Masonic codes to abide by. But the enslavement and the suffering is way too much. Martin Luther King was a Mason, but he did what he ought to do. He gave us some truth, no matter how bad it was. He gave us the truth, even though he was a Mason. I believe he was a Mason. That is my understanding. Because he couldn't have been given the platform to speak and the media to be heard all around the United States during the Civil Rights era if he wasn't an employee of the system, which is run by the albinos today from the Vatican. That's just fact. All right, let's move on. Let's move on now. And here is Candace Parker. As you can see, Candace Parker has a straight back all the way into the pelvis. Candace Parker is no female. This is a straight up man. Don't let him lie to you any much more longer. You've been looking at a man playing basketball, female basketball, for a while and winning all the awards, because Candace Parker is one of them. Let's go, another picture. Here's Candace Parker, as you can see. Let me try to blow this up. It's a small picture. We'll try to blow it up as much as I can so you can see that this is a straight back all the way into the pelvis. There's no arch in this back because Candace Parker is 100% male, is not a female. Straight back all the way, no arch. All right. We had some more revealing pictures of Candace Parker, but because we're trying to keep the channel up as long as we can, it was an ESPN issue. Just go if you just Google the ESPN cover edition for Candace Parker online, and you'll see those pictures for yourself, and you can tell glaringly that you're looking at a man right there. The back is going to be straight. The Q angle is going to be above the crotch and not below it. But here it is, Candace Parker, straight back all the way down into the pelvis, no arch, because Candace Parker is 100% female. 100% male and not a female. Let's go. Another picture, Candace Parker. As you can see, the Q angle here is above the crotch, is not below, above. And we think he has some sort of like hip padding or whatever that's underneath the clothes to give us this figure, but 100% male all the same, because the widest point is still above the crotch and not below it like a female should be. Candace Parker is 100% male. It's not a man. Oh, sorry, it's not a female. And here's Candace Parker again. As you can see, the back is straight. And the Q angle even from the back, this is the whatever, this is where the crotch is right there, and this Q angle is above, very far away from this, because the bottom line will be around here and the Q angle is right there, because Candace Parker is 100% male, straight back, as you can see right here. This is not the back of any female. This is 100% man playing females basketball and winning all the awards. All right, we moved on to another person. This is 6ix9ine. 6ix9ine is very, very popular as a kid who sings rap music or whatever he spills out of his mouth. I don't know, but 6ix9ine is 100% female. As you can see right here, this navel is set way too high, even though the picture is blurry, but you can tell that's navel because they make it blurry for a purpose. So this is a well-constructed picture by the Vatican to hide the fact that they've taken this young child and turned it into what it is. You can see right there that this navel is high, so high above the torso of the body, and it's tilted forward. As you can see, he's spreading wider from underneath the elbows, because 6ix9ine is 100% female and not a male as being portrayed to us. And here is 6ix9ine again. As you can see, there's an arch in that back, and that's his huge pelvis right there, because 6ix9ine is 100% female. You can even tell by the nipples, like by the color of the areolas around it, that this is the color and areolas of a female and not that of a man. All right, because 6ix9ine really is 100% female and is not a man as the media portrays it to be. There's an arch in that back and that huge pelvis, as you can see from right where the elbows are at, because 6ix9ine is 100% female and not a man. And here is 6ix9ine again. As you can see, the hourglass figure starts showing. That's the elbows right there, where the elbows usually tuck into the female form and for the contours of the body. And that's what you're seeing with 6ix9ine right there, because this is a female with huge pelvis, a huge pelvis, and the hips probably below the crotch, which we can't see, which they are hiding because they don't want you to know that 6ix9ine, who's being used to mold the minds of a lot of young teenagers right now, is actually a female, not a man. And here's 6ix9ine again with what's the name of this girl? Oh goodness gracious, let me get the name of this lady. Oh, this is Lala Anthony. And Lala Anthony seems to be everywhere we find any transgender. We seem to find Lala Anthony these days. It's like she's the go-to person which the Vatican uses to cover up for a lot of these transgenders. You find out that she was in the party with Serena Williams. She's been in a party with Ciara. She's been in a party with Beyonce, and now with 6ix9ine. It's like she's a very good stooge. I mean, I wonder what kind of mind control they must have had on Layla Anthony. They've trained her probably from childhood to fit into that kind of mind control in which they can just, snap their fingers and she responds to everything and just covers up pretty well. Poor girl. 2 girls. 6'9", both females. Let's move forward. And here again is 50 Cent again with 6'9". We just saw him over there with who did we just see him with? What's the name of the person we saw? He was over with. Let me make sure again that I call the name right. He was with Ronan Farron, right? So who knows? Who knows the kind of mind control? Because like I've told you guys before, everybody that you see in the entertainment business has been groomed to be in that position. So it can be a coincidence that we find 50 Cent here with Ronan Farron, and we find him here again with 6'9", 2 transgenders. So he could be some sort of, it could be possible he's a handler, or he could just be the guy that they've trained to make you guys believe that these are actually males when they're not. So that's 50 Cent right there with 6'9" again. Another picture. So this is why you can't trust anybody you see on TV. You can't make role models of anybody you see on TV. And what's this name of this lady? She's with Crystal Stewart. Crystal Stewart is the next person we're featuring on this channel who happens to be a transgender. Let me get the name of this black lady so we can talk some more. So the name of this lady is Tasha Smith, okay? Tasha Smith here is holding... now, I want you guys to take a good look at this body so you can see the differences between a male trying to be female and a female in reality. So they're both the same height, okay? I want you to take a good look at that first. They're both the same height. So you can see right here, both same height, right? Now let's go to the body. Now remember, with a female, the waist of the female to her hips will split the body in half. The waist of a male to the hips will have just 1/4 the length of the body, all right? So Tasha Smith is female. So her navel is going to be right here, which is where her hips are. So you can see the elbow right. You can see that she starts spreading and gets wider. So from that elbow point or where her navel is, which is right around here, and her waist is just slightly above the navel, you would see it cuts the whole length of this body in half down to the hips, which we can't see. But Crystal Stewart right here, look at where the navel is. So see, this is where Tasha Smith's navel will be, and this is where her waist will be, which is right up here, right? Half. Okay? See that? So hers is higher, and his one is lower, because this is a man, and this is a woman. All right, let's go. Here is Crystal Stewart again, as you can see. Tell me, where is the location of that female hip? Where is it at? Is it above or below? Well, you can see the widest point is right here, above the crotch, above it. Because Crystal Stewart, which is she's in the movie right now called Acrimony by Tyler Perry, which a lot of people believe is the most truthful man in the world, tells you the truth, is a man of God, is all false. These are all Vatican creations. Nothing but lies coming out of your mouth. Don't trust a word that Tyler Perry tells you. No matter the joke he cracks, he's telling you no truth because you're looking at 100% male right here and not a woman. All right. And Crystal Stewart. Look at that, Crystal Stewart, straight back. They would have had a few ribs removed, but it doesn't lie. The Q angle right here is it's above the crotch. It's not below it. This is where, okay, let me blow this up so you guys can see very well. Look at this. This Q angle is right here. It's above the crotch. It's not below it. Because Crystal Stewart is male. It's above. The Q angle is right here. Is not below. If she was female, it would be right around here below. But look at the distance. That's where the Q angle is. And don't worry, it's got some ribs removed, some body contouring to make it look like it has an arch, but it's no arch. It's a straight back, as you will see in the next picture. Here's Crystal Stewart again. Look at the back. Straight all the way down into the pelvis. Straight back, no arch. Because this is 100% male. But it'll be portrayed to you by Tyler Perry as an outstanding female actress when he is indeed male. All right, I think we've come to the end of today's video. I hope you learned something. And here's one thing I want you guys to understand. We talk about a lot of stuff on these videos. You've probably heard us say the Vatican runs the world, and white or albino supremacy is the ideology that runs it. You've probably heard, okay, the fact that, you know, blacks are denigrated for a certain reason, and that blacks are being, you know, controlled so that they don't breed out white supremacy or albino supremacy, and all the lies that they tell us. A lot of people hear all that. And you've probably heard us say that, you know, there's so many deception and lies in everything that's being controlled by white or albino supremacy, as I should say it. If that's the only thing you're getting from watching these videos, I have to make you understand that you would be the biggest fool in the world if that's all what you're getting. Because you have to look at the level of deceit and deception in this world. Can you imagine the amount of money these guys spend? They spend billions and billions of dollars just to tell you lies. So for example, if you're on a flight, if you fly on an airplane, and the flight tracks where your point of origin to your destination, you can see that fine animation that's being played over, telling you over which countries and trying to make you feel, trying to make you believe that the world is a globe. There is so much money going into that to create such animation and such lies to control your reality. And then there's so much money spent to maintain those lies so that you guys keep believing it. Why would this guy spend this kind of amount of money? Because it means like the money doesn't mean anything to him. Because for me, if I was trying to tell a lie and spending so much money to do it, at one point in time, I got to just say, look, the amount of money I'm spending trying to maintain and tell you a lie is ridiculously too much. But they keep spending and spending money to tell you lies. Billions of dollars, like to create those rockets that go up in the sky and make you believe that they're going to space. Billions of dollars to create all these stupid laws and all the poisons in our food and water and everything else. Billions of dollars, all right, to create diseases that target people, all right, and make them weak. Billions, trillions. It doesn't, well, I'm saying it wrongly because it's not even billions. The money is uncountable at this point. Why would they go through so much and spend this amount of money like it's nothing just to tell you lies and make you believe in a reality that's false? When you ask that question, you're going to find out that this is not about transgenders, it's not about the Vatican, it's not about white supremacy. This is more than something else. And this goes down to the very words of Yehoshua. He said this: of what benefit is it that a man should gain the whole world and lose his soul? What was Yehoshua saying? He was saying that there is no amount of money or any amount of wealth of all the world cannot be equal to a soul. So what should you learn from this? If you look at the money these guys are spending to tell you lies, then you should understand that the business is not about telling you lies. The business is not about transgenders. The business is not about the Vatican. The business is not about white supremacy. The business is about your soul. It's a business of souls. So if the only thing you're getting from watching the videos is that transgenders are in public spheres controlling your reality, and the Vatican is the one using them, and that white supremacy is an ideology that's running everything else, and that blacks are being denigrated, you're hearing the wrong information. What you ought to hear is that all these lies, all this deception, all this money being spent is for your soul. It is in the business of souls. Is it Satan? Is in the business of looking for your soul. And God is in the business of having it. That is what you ought to get. So if all you're getting is just transgenders, you're getting the wrong message. And you're going to end up where you're not supposed to end up. The question you need to ask is, who do you stand for? Where is your soul going? Is it going to Satan, the devil, or is it going to God? Because that is what this is all about. I want you to take that from this. So with that, we come to the end of today's video. I know it was a long video, but we always have to tell you the truth. Even if it's the last thing we do, that's all we have, and that's all we'll provide. And we leave you with these words: look with your eyes, but see with your brain. Stay tuned, and I'll talk to you again.